Hey, welcome back to another dispatch from Holly McKay. Um, Today's a little bit special. Um, we're going to hear from Holly about the process of finding yourself again and getting rid of noise. So, Holly, how was Morocco?
Oh, so it's very unusual for me to go on a overseas trip that's not a work trip, which this wasn't. This was something that Ryan and I planned. We both have milestone birthdays this year, and um, we just, that was a thing we planned. It was sort of, I guess, kind of a honeymoon, but our daughter was also with us, and I think Morocco, and in particular, the city of Marrakech was somewhere that I just always wanted to go to and always wanted to take my child to. And I think that's why I held off going for so many years in my life. I had this dream many years ago about going to Marrakech, which is really this very spiritual center of Morocco. It was sort of the meeting place for all the Sufis. And as someone who really follows and loves sort of Sufi poetry, it always just kind of held a very strong mystique for me. There are a few places on the planet that have that. Some I've been to, some I have yet to go to, but Marrakesh was definitely one of those. And so this was just a really great opportunity. We have good friends of ours that live in Casablanca. So we sort of started there and then went on to other places. But I think for me, what I found when I got to Marrakesh, and Marrakesh is just, we're staying in the old Medina, the old city, and it's just beautiful. Like there's no cars. It's these sort of really narrow streets that are kind of set around a big market. You've got the big market square, and then you've got the sort of the old souk, and it's really something so extraordinary. It's something you don't see in the United States, and Marrakesh in particular is this really unique blend of the Middle East and North Africa, which is where it's located, and then Europe because it's right, they're close to Spain. So, and French, it was colonized by the French. So Marrakesh is very French speaking, and then you go to Tangier, which we also went to, which is you can see Spain from your hotel, and it's there's a lot more Spanish speakers. But in any case, it's this just very blend of so many different worlds, and so we get there, and I just found myself really with this kind of inability to disconnect from things. Um, First of all, it was really hard to leave behind the stresses of just life, of things that we're going through personally, professionally, and just concerns, just for our family financially. And I don't really want to get into all that today, but there's just a lot going on, as everybody does, and it was very hard to kind of let those things go. And then just I found it hard disconnecting, from my phone. And obviously the news cycle was, very potent last week with the, very sad assassination of Charlie Kirk. And there were other things. And I found myself just with going down these rabbit holes, um, looking at social media and, things like Twitter, which I haven't really looked at. I mean, I'll post stories there, but I don't spend, as a rule, don't spend time on Twitter. And then kind of going back there and then really realizing that I didn't recognize the world that I was living in anymore, in the sense that the kind of spewing and the hatred and the ego and the just all these things that just if that sense of everything being so toxic, and then also feeling like I couldn't pull away from that kind of toxicity either, because I was in this magical place, and yet um I couldn't let my own problems go, and I found it hard just to be very present. And I think it was a really big realization for me, how much work I have to do in my own life to be able to step away, and really just how unhealthy that vortex is. You've got algorithms that are making people angry, you've got divisiveness, just a lot of kind of, I guess, mean-spirited rhetoric. And even though I'm someone who's a huge proponent of the First Amendment, absolutely, I can disagree with you, but I will still fight for your right to say that. But I don't understand kind of how far we've fallen in the sense that everybody feels the need. Thank God I'm not on TikTok because if I was on TikTok, I can't even imagine the vortex that goes on there. But just this sort of need to, um, I guess the ego-driven need for everyone to espouse their opinion on a thousand things and just sort of, I guess, how far I feel like we've fallen. And I really just sense that dark side of social media that I always knew was kind of there, but never really put into words. And just in that trip, just really had this moment with myself and about how much I didn't want to be involved in that and how I was missing so much of my present life um, with that kind of sort of wasted time and the scrolling and the books I was missing out on reading, the moments I was missing out on having, um, and just the hours of not putting into something that's productive in my life. And I just, yeah, I think that, what I gained from that trip more than anything was this sort of epiphany of how much I didn't want that in my life anymore.
Hmm. Well, good for you, because what was it? I mean, because you started messaging me a whole bunch of stuff, and I just kept messaging you back. You're on your honeymoon. Stop talking to me. And eventually you did. And
Yeah.
so when the story comes out, I just go, oh, that is just the most perfect thing in the whole world because and I think it's a very human thing in that I think
Yeah.
what you're chronicling is just how hard it is to separate from your everyday life when you're trying to go find your inner self again um and the whole process of doing that um how f- how much better did you feel when you finally just let go and just enjoyed the moment?
Yeah, and I think leading up to it, so as you know, I've kind of worked in news for 2 decades now, and um, a lot of that, even when I was, overseas, but everything was kind of centered around that breaking news, kind of how you could enhance a story, break a story, add to a story. I was the person that would be sent off when there was a big shooting or a terrorist attack or something, domestically or overseas. And so I was living in that vortex of that constant adrenaline of breaking news. And I I think even though I have been separated for that for some time now, I don't know that I was fully separated from that. And then I think in this experience, I really realized how much I did not want that in my life anymore. That part of me just did not feel like a healthy response to the life that I want to lead at this chapter of where I am. That part of me belonged to the past, and that's not what my future as a journalist, as a writer looks like. And I think that was a realization of having to just let go of not being in the matrix of that anymore and being okay with that and realizing that I was absolutely okay with that because that is not the life that I want going forward. And my daughter is crying and I just have to get her for a second.
Okay, we're back. And I hear little raven sounds, which is
Yeah,
very
little raven sounds. Um, she's having a moment. So yeah, so I really realized that I think the new chapter, not the new chapter, but the importance of, I guess, growing into things. And now she's riding a horse next to me. I'm sorry about that.
I love it.
But I think growing into things differently, yeah, and I just think, again, the experiences that I've had in working in that breaking news things, but it's very hard to be present in the sense of you can never plan a life really. It was hard for me to ever buy a concert ticket because I never knew where I was going to be or anything that was refundable, to commit to going to somebody's wedding or birthday party, because you're just constantly on the go. And I did that for so many years, and I think that breaking away from that, it's still there's a part of me that still misses sometimes that I guess that rush in a way, but then there's this other part of me that is so ready um for things beyond that, I think. And
Hmm.
that was just a powerful realization that I had in this trip about the work that I need to do for myself personally and professionally, um, to I think just be a healthier human being in many ways.
So the jinn in Marrakech are real, and they do come and talk to your soul. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is pretty
Yeah,
cool. Yeah,
it is
no,
pretty
I,
cool. And I think for me, learning to disconnect, being okay with disconnect, knowing that I don't need to be attached to, and I think a lot of people can relate to this of not needing to be attached to the rest of the world and spend more time being attached to kind of what is right in front of you. And
mhm.
I think that, that's what I want to take with me going forward and a little bit more, I guess going back to being more of a writer than a journalist, I guess, in the sense that I miss some of that creativity. I miss, being able to really soak in an experience, I guess, in a different way without necessarily looking for the news punch out of it. Um,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
you've never really been one to chase breaking news for breaking news sake. You know,
yeah.
you're you've always been one to find the stories inside the breaking news, which is more of a writer inside you. And but the job would always like draw you to the stuff that was
Well,
breaking.
the thing with journalism, even if you are working on something that's more long form, that's more of a feature, editors always want a news hook to it. They want it to be tied to something relevant
Oh yeah.
today because otherwise they look at it and say, why are we doing this again now? What is the point of writing this
Yeah,
now? And you're
yeah.
like, well, because it's a feature story and it's important. But most editors and newspapers and outlets want it to be tied to something. So you're always
Sure.
having to figure out, even if you have the story, you're figuring out how do I tie it to a current policy or a current event or something that just happened, because they want to make it relevant to their readers. And so that is something that's hard to escape, in journalism. And sometimes you just want to write for writing's sake, and it's not.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the
Yeah.
economics of it, right? You know, like because news is, after all, first and foremost a business. Um, and journalism is has always, the most interesting journalism just doesn't necessarily fit the making money part of it. Um, and these days, the making money part of it has migrated into artificial sensation, which you've never really been a part of, nor have I. And So finding a path somewhere inside of that that fits who you are. I, you know, I kind of like where this is going, to tell you the truth, because you're gonna you're gonna you're gonna wind up exploring things that are going to be far more compelling and interesting, I think, to the people that want to think about this stuff. And I'm with you, man. I don't watch news. I don't watch TV. I wait for interesting things to come across my life, and when they are interesting, that's when I pay attention. And I think there's an audience for that. And I don't think that audience is being well served right now by um, sensationalism or echo chamber type stuff. Uh, yeah, but more than that, um, you've also never really been that good at letting go, because you have been an addicted to your devices since, like, ever since I met you, right? It's like constant. What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? Uh, so congratulations on, putting all that stuff in the bottom of the bag for a few days. That was how did it feel? because in your article you said it felt like being naked for a while.
I mean, it does feel naked for a while because I don't. What you worry about is like that you're going to turn your phone back on and there's going to be just a barrage of messages, and so there's always that part of it that you're like, is am I just creating more work for myself? But I think at the end of the day, yeah, again, it just takes a little bit of getting used to, and it's surprising how quickly you just kind of adapt and forget to look at your phone. You just forget. You forget to check your email. You forget to check whatever. And so that's something. Yeah, there's something nice about that. I certainly, as I said, um, I have to be on social media as an independent writer to promote my work, but beyond that, it's just managing the time spent. I think is the most important thing, and then yeah, I guess not getting sucked into these sort of algorithms that ignite some kind of fear or
Hmm.
comparison or things that just kind of mess with our head more than we need to because life is hard enough and what I've learned with my own struggles in different things and I think social media is not helping me as a
Yeah.
human being and yeah, you
Hmm.
think about what relationship I want my own child to have with social media when she is old enough
Hmm.
and I definitely want her to, I guess, stay away from that for as long as she can. That's who knows where things will be at, when she's old enough. But um, I just don't think I don't think it's making America a healthy society right now.
You and me both. As a matter of fact, I think that's a very important area to be exploring. I don't think you or I are alone in that sentiment. Because the paradigm is in bad need of changing as far as the internet is not the do all and end all of every bit of information, nor is broadcast television, nor is cable, which is basically another form of broadcast. Um, there is a point where uh, individuals have to learn to reassert control over how they interact with things, and particularly in an environment that is increasingly barraged with stuff that isn't even real. And um, from a human generated unrealness perspective. And now it's being augmented by artificial intelligence based non-realities. Um,
And I just
yeah,
think
I
we
mean,
need to get back to
there's a
a
lot of work
place
to
of
do, don't you
authentic.
think?
Yeah, and a place of authenticity, and I think that's where being a writer comes in because you do have to bear parts of yourself. You're always trying to get to that authentic core. And I think that even what I'm seeing now in like status updates on Facebook or everybody's using chat GPT, even just to write a status. I'm seeing people respond to messages on WhatsApp with things that I clearly know are written. It's very easy to tell when something is written by chat GPT, trust me.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it is. It
there
is.
is phrasing, there is a punctuation, like it's just very easy to tell. And then you also, when you know people, you know that's not how they speak or how they write. And suddenly I feel like so many people are writing their Facebook updates and then responding to basic messages with HTTP. And this is where I feel like we've crossed the line. Like, where is that authenticity? And I remember maybe 10, 12 years ago seeing a quote sort of written on a wall of a cafe that I was at in New York, and it was basically about how authenticity was the only currency that would become left in this lifetime. And I think right now in 2025, that feels so relevant because we are lacking authenticity, and we're using these AI models, which are, again, I'm all for them. I think there's so many great things you can do with them, but we're using them as our voice, and we're losing a sense of self and that in a way really just pushes me to go back more into what life was like before any of this and what um we're
Yeah.
losing that creative sense of self
Or
and
more
ability
important,
to think for ourselves as well.
yeah, more important, what should life be like after all this stuff is around? And where is the quality of life with all of it? in the background. And
Yeah.
you get to explore that because now you're clearly sensitized to it. And maybe that's what the Jinn want
Yeah.
from you.
It's time to go back to a little bit of 1999.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
So,
even just now, my rule of thumb now being, um, instead of time I would spend maybe scrolling is a time that I spend even just a small amount of reading a book, on my Kindle or something. You just, yeah, the amount of being able
mhm.
to kind of get through, um, since disengaging is, yeah,
Yeah,
it's quite prolific. So,
it's the
um,
boring stuff nobody wants to read where all the real stuff is.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, going from there back into a little bit more of my writing creative roots, see where we end up. And
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're off on a plane again tomorrow,
Well,
and it's gonna be Raven's we're flying out again tomorrow, and it's gonna be Raven's birthday on Sunday. So I'm gonna
oh, I
spoil
wish I was
her.
there.
I know we're
I
going to
like that
Miami, and
kid.
I'm going to, yeah, spoil her rotten at the beach because she's my priority. And she's been to
Okay.
several countries with me, and I have to say that, yeah, there's so there. I really love traveling with my toddler, even though for a lot of people that seems like a nightmare scenario, but she's a dream, but she's also
No.
just being able to see things through a child eye. A child's eyes is such a beautiful way to travel, and such a privilege. So yeah, I'm really just, yeah, loving
Yeah.
being able to take her on some of these
Hmm.
trips.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see her the next time I see her, which
Yeah, she's
I don't
currently
think it's
under
going
my
to be
desk
all the,
drawing on the floor, so we're at that stage. Oh,
well,
Raven, naughty, she's got the pen. Naughty, naughty. Raven, give mommy the pen. No, give mommy the pen. Give mommy the pen.
oh, I love that little impish
Daddy's
laugh.
gonna be very upset when he sees this. I'm gonna send him a picture. Can mommy have the pen? Okay, we gotta go. We gotta sort this.
All right.
There's
With
there's
that,
pen
Holly,
everywhere.
that is the perfect outro.
Yeah.
So talk to you again soon. I'm gonna shut it off now with you out of camera. Bye bye.
Thanks, Dennis. Talk to you soon.